Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Portman, members of the committee. I'm very pleased to be here to talk about our work on COVID-19 relief spending. As has been mentioned, great urgency was given to providing quick relief to deal with public health issues and economic repercussions of the pandemic. However, trade-offs were made that limited progress in ensuring transparency and accountability over this money. Controls that should have been in place before payments were made were either reduced or eliminated. Also, monitoring efforts, post-payment reviews, and other efforts weren't instituted as fast as possible after the payments were made to try to assess the integrity of the programs and have recovery efforts underway. Now, these shortcomings were exacerbated by already existing problems in financial management in the federal government. Chief among these is a serious improper payment problem. The government's got a payment problem, and lack of focus on prevention of audits, not after the fact, pay and chase. With regard to improper payments, since 2003, reported estimates total over $2.2 trillion. Just in fiscal 21 alone was $281 billion, a jump from $75 billion in the prior year. This involves 16 agencies, 86 federal programs, 26 or 30% of them have over a 10% improper payment rate. Also, and this isn't a complete estimate. Some are not reporting, some of the estimates aren't rigorous. With regard to the fraud prevention issue, we worked with the Congress in 2016 to help Congress pass a Fraud Prevention Act that was supposed to have agencies focus more on preventing fraud. This was slow to be implemented. Therefore, we weren't in a good position when the emergency pandemic came around to prevent the fraud that occurred. So we are recommending today 10 different legislative solutions that Congress could pursue to address both what we found during the pandemic and these underlying persistent, serious, fundamental financial management issues that the government has. Number one, chief financial officers ought to be given more responsibility for improper payments estimates, to certify their accuracy, to monitor corrective actions. Right now, it's just the program people who administer the programs that are providing the estimates. So we need more rigor in the estimates, more transparency and corrective action plans. They ought to be mandated to be reported in agency financial statements every year. And any new program, in my opinion, over $100 million ought to be automatically determined to be susceptible to improper payments. There should have to be proof it's low risk, not prove that there's a problem. And this would ensure improper payment estimates are made in the first year of the program. Right now, it's 2 or 3 years down the road before these estimates are made, and problems are already entrenched into the program activities. Secondly, with regard to fraud, we need to reinstitute the reporting requirements that the agencies have to report on the status of their fraud prevention efforts. This would provide better visibility and more assertive congressional oversight over their efforts, because only if the agency officials can prevent fraud is the most meaningful way that this could be addressed. And also, I believe that the what's now called the PACE Committee ought to be permanently instituted and focused on all federal spending, not just COVID spending. I recommended this back in 2015 after the Recovery Act. Unfortunately, Congress and the administration didn't follow that, and so this effort was put in place, was too late. It was a year after the efforts. It was only limited to the pandemic, so that could be fixed. Also, internal control plans ought to be put in place immediately for emergencies, so they're already in place. We know what the problems are. They could be tailored later if it's a unique need for the emergency, but they ought to be put in place. Normal controls is not sufficient, as we've seen here. And OMB should do this. Congress should mandate that it be done. Also, we need to reinstitute the requirement for the Inspector Generals to audit periodically all federal spending that's displayed through usaspending.gov. So I have other suggestions, but my time's up. I'm happy to answer questions at the appropriate time. I appreciate the invitation to participate today. Thank you.